happens when your desire is strong, yet the bills keep stacking, the promotions never come, and life feels like it's slipping away? Is desire still enough? Meet Daniel, 34 years old, a mid-level manager in New York. For a decade, he dreamed of building his own business. But every rejection, every financial setback, every doubt from friends and family chipped away at the fire inside him. Imagine the city of New York on a gray winter morning. The streets are buzzing with life, honking cars, hurried footsteps, the smell of coffee drifting from corner shops. Somewhere on the 22nd floor of a corporate high-rise sits Daniel, 34 years old, staring blankly at the glowing screen of his laptop. His inbox is filled with reminders, deadlines, and another polite rejection for the side project he poured his weekends into. Daniel is not unsuccessful. He has what many people would envy: a stable job as a mid-level manager, a decent apartment, a respectable salary. But every day feels the same. Spreadsheets, meetings, a commute that drains his soul. And inside him burns, or perhaps once burned, a desire for something greater. Since his college years, Daniel dreamed of building something that would carry his name, an architectural design that would outlive him. He wanted to leave a mark on the skyline, a building that whispered, "He was here." But years passed. Every attempt to step outside the corporate path collapsed. Investors dismissed him. Colleagues laughed at his sketches. His family urged him to be realistic after all. Stability is safer than chasing fantasies. Slowly, the fire that once roared in his heart shrank to embers. It is here that Napoleon Hill's words strike like lightning. The starting point of all achievement is desire. Weak desire brings weak results, just as a small fire makes a small amount of heat. Think of it, fire is life. Without fire, humanity would still sit in the dark, cold and powerless. Every great achievement, from skyscrapers piercing the sky to rockets crossing into space, began with a flame inside someone's mind. But just as a small flame dies with the wind, a weak desire collapses at the first obstacle. Daniel's story is not unique. If you are in your late 20s or 30s, you know this feeling. The world tells you to be responsible. Bills pile up. Promotions dangle like carrots but rarely satisfy. That dream you once had, writing a book, starting a business, building something meaningful, begins to feel like an indulgence you can't afford. And here lies the paradox. The very stage of life when your responsibilities grow heavier is also the stage when your fire must burn hottest. Daniel reached a breaking point one evening. He returned home late, drained from another 12-hour day. His apartment was silent, the kind of silence that echoes. He dropped his bag, loosened his tie, and sat in the dark. On the table lay a rejection letter for a small design competition he had entered, one he believed could finally put his work on the map. His heart whispered, "Maybe I should stop. Maybe this dream isn't meant for me." But in that moment, something stirred. He remembered a phrase his old professor once told him: "The world doesn't care if you try once. It only listens when your fire refuses to die." Those words brought him back to Hill's principle. Desire is not a luxury. It is the starting point of everything. He asked himself, "Do I still want this badly enough? Or has my fire gone cold?" Here's the truth Hill wanted us to see. Desire is more than a wish. Wishing is passive. Desire is active. It is a force that refuses to accept defeat, a fuel that outlasts rejection, a fire that consumes every excuse until only determination remains. When Thomas Edison was asked how he endured thousands of failed experiments before creating the light bulb, his answer was simple: "I didn't fail. I found 10,000 ways that didn't work." That isn't the mindset of a man who merely wishes. That is the mindset of someone whose desire burned like a furnace. Desire is the energy that pushes you to wake up earlier, stay up later, sacrifice comfort, and face the sting of embarrassment. Without it, talent withers. With it, even average people accomplish extraordinary things. Daniel began to reflect on his own life. He realized he had allowed his fire to shrink to a candle flicker, one that could barely light his own room, let alone illuminate the skyline of a city. He asked himself, what would it take to grow this fire again? The answer was not glamorous. It wasn't a sudden windfall of money or a stroke of luck. It was discipline feeding the fire, day after day, with consistent fuel. He started small, waking up an hour earlier before work to sketch designs, reaching out to one new contact each week, submitting his work even when rejection felt inevitable. And something remarkable happened. The more he acted, the more his desire grew. Like oxygen feeding a flame, every small step made the fire hotter. This is another paradox of desire. We think passion comes first and action follows, but often action feeds passion. The more you do, the more you want. To truly understand Hill's words, you must test them against your own life. Ask yourself, what is the fire I once had? Have I let it shrink to embers? Do I still want it badly enough to endure failure, rejection, and doubt? If your answer is no, then perhaps your dream was never truly yours. But if your chest aches with the thought of giving it up, if the mere idea of quitting feels like betrayal, then you know your desire still smolders inside. Daniel learned this truth the hard way. Life doesn't hand you permission to dream. The world won't pause to cheer for your ambition. Desire must burn so strongly that you no longer need external validation. Because, in the end, achievement is not about luck or timing or even raw talent. It is about how fiercely your inner fire burns when the night is longest. Daniel's turning point came on a night when everything seemed lost. He sat in his apartment, staring at that rejection letter, when a realization struck him. His fire had been too small. He remembered Hill's words echoing in his mind. Weak desire brings weak results, just as a small fire makes a small amount of heat. At first, the words stung. It felt like an accusation. Was his desire truly weak? He had worked for years, hadn't he? He had sacrificed weekends, submitted his designs, faced humiliation. But then he understood it wasn't the effort that was weak, it was the consistency of his desire. Every time rejection came, his flame flickered. Every time someone doubted him, his heat cooled. A fire that dies whenever the wind blows is not a fire strong enough to build a legacy. Daniel decided to test something radical. Instead of measuring his progress by outcomes, he would measure it by his ability to keep his desire burning. He stopped treating rejection as a verdict. Instead, he saw it as fuel. Each no became oxygen to his fire. He stopped waiting for motivation. Instead, he used discipline to protect his flame. Desire, he realized, is not a feeling you wait for. It is a fire you feed. And he stopped comparing himself to others. The skyscrapers of New York had taken decades to rise. Why did he expect his dream to appear overnight? At first, nothing visible changed. He still woke up early to sketch designs. He still worked long hours at his corporate job. But inside, something shifted. The fire grew hotter, steadier, no longer a flickering candle, but a steady furnace. This is where Hill's wisdom reveals its depth. Achievement doesn't start with opportunity, money, or talent. It begins with a furnace, like desire that refuses to die, no matter how many storms arrive. But life does not reward desire immediately. Daniel soon faced his greatest test. a new competition opened, the chance to design a public library in a smaller Midwestern town. He poured his heart into the submission. Weeks later, the email arrived. "Thank you for your interest, but we have chosen another candidate." The old Daniel would have folded. The fire would have dimmed. But this time, he read the rejection differently. He whispered to himself, "A small fire makes a small amount of heat. If my fire weakens now, it proves Hill right. But if I let this rejection fuel me, the fire grows hotter." Instead of retreating, he doubled his output. He polished his designs, posted them online, started sharing his process on social media. He reached out to mentors, architects he admired, asking for feedback. Most ignored him, a few responded. Each piece of advice became a log on his fire, and slowly, people began to notice. His sketches gained traction. A small design firm offered him freelance work. It wasn't the landmark he had once envisioned, but it was a beginning. Daniel's story is not extraordinary because he suddenly became famous. It's extraordinary because it shows the psychology of desire in action. If you are in your late 20s, 30s, or 40s, you felt this struggle. Life has a way of testing how badly you want something. You dream of starting a business, but bills, children, and responsibilities tell you to be practical. You desire to write that book, but every rejection slip whispers that your words aren't good enough. You want to break free from a job you hate, but fear of failure keeps you chained. The question is not whether you will face rejection. You will. The question is, will your fire survive the storm? Napoleon Hill's quote is not romantic. It is brutal truth. If your desire is weak, the world will crush it. But if your desire is strong enough, no rejection, no doubt, no delay can extinguish it. Here is the paradox. People think desire makes life easier. In reality, strong desire often makes life harder, at least in the short term. It demands sacrifice. It forces you to endure embarrassment. It strips away comfort. But here's the greater truth. The pain of pursuing a strong desire is nothing compared to the emptiness of living without one. Daniel realized he would rather suffer the fire's heat than live in the cold of a dream abandoned. And this choice transformed him. He stopped being just a manager with a fading dream. He became a man on fire. And people are drawn to fire. Years later, Daniel did not build the tallest skyscraper in New York, but he designed something real, a community center in a nearby town, a building that carried his vision and his name. It wasn't the skyline he once imagined, but it was a start. More importantly, he discovered that achievement wasn't a destination at all. It was a continuous process of feeding the fire of desire. He understood that success was not about proving others wrong or chasing applause. It was about refusing to let his fire die. So, here's the question for you. Sitting in your 20s, 30s, or 40s, perhaps watching this after another draining day of work, where is your fire? Is it a roaring furnace or just a spark barely alive? Have you been waiting for permission, for perfect timing, for someone to believe in you? If so, remember Daniel, remember Hill. No one will hand you achievement. The world does not owe you recognition. But if your desire is strong enough, it will carve its way through rejection, through doubt, through time itself. Because in the end, every skyscraper begins with a single flame. Every legacy begins with a desire that refused to die. So ask yourself tonight, is my desire strong enough to survive? Or will it fade into smoke before the world ever feels its heat? Achievement does not begin with luck. It does not begin with opportunity or talent or the approval of others. As Napoleon Hill reminded us, it begins with desire, the kind of desire that burns so hot, so relentlessly, that it survives every storm life throws at it. Daniel's journey is proof. He was not the most brilliant architect, nor the most connected, nor the luckiest. What separated him from the thousands who quietly gave up was that he refused to let his fire go out, even when rejection stacked up, even when his family told him to be realistic, even when every door seemed closed. He chose to feed the flame instead of letting it die. This is the lesson Hill left us. Weak desire is a flickering match in the wind. Strong desire is a furnace that cannot be extinguished. And in your life, that fire will be tested again and again. In your 20s and 30s, when bills pile up and careers demand every ounce of your energy, you will wonder if your dreams were naive. In your 40s, when responsibilities feel heavier than ever, you will ask if it's too late. The world will whisper reasons to quit. It will tempt you with comfort, distract you with noise, and drown you in doubt. But the world does not decide whether your fire lives or dies. Only you do. Look at the city skyline. Every tower of steel and glass began as a single spark in someone's imagination. Someone, somewhere, once had a desire that refused to fade. That is how the impossible becomes possible, not through shortcuts, not through chance, but through desire strong enough to outlast rejection, ridicule, and time itself. Daniel discovered that success is not about building the tallest skyscraper, but about keeping his fire alive long enough to build something real, something true, something that carried his name. And when you think about your own life, that is the real question. It is not about applause or recognition or perfection. It is about whether the flame inside you is strong enough to survive the nights when nothing seems to work. So tonight, ask yourself, where is my fire? Is it still burning fiercely, or has it shrunk to embers? Have I let rejection, fear, or comfort smother the flame that once defined me? Because one truth remains: no one will hand you achievement. No one will light your fire for you. That is your work, your responsibility, your privilege. And if you keep that fire alive, if you feed it day after day, the world will one day feel its heat. Your desire will shape your destiny. Your fire will leave a mark no storm can erase. The only question left is this: will you let your fire fade into smoke, or will you burn so brightly that the world cannot ignore your heat? If this story spoke to you, remember, it is only one spark among many. On this channel, Quotes for Life, we uncover timeless lessons from the greatest thinkers' ideas that can fuel your own journey through struggle, meaning, and growth. So if you wish to keep your fire burning, stay with us. Explore more of these stories, and let each one add another log to the flame inside you.